Alrighty. It's week 6, I believe, if I'm counting correctly.
You are.
We're only a few short weeks until the season actually begins, Thanksgiving, which is good. Getting all the bad reps out nice and early. Let's start with the 3 questions going into this week. The first one is your question, so we'll start there.
Yeah, so let's talk about this week. We've seen, with the offensive explosion, we talked about this on YouTube, the more passing.
This was a really shitty intro. Nothing interesting, nothing to talk about. Should we talk about something before?
Okay.
Do you have anything personal that you want to tell people?
No.
That's boring. You sure? You were just complaining about like Cincinnati traffic. You got anything else to complain about?
Yeah, I mean, Cincinnati traffic is overrated, underrated.
All right, now we've added some culture to the podcast. That's what I was looking for. Great. No one cares. Got anything else off your back? No?
I see. That's the trick, is that you conditioned me into not talking about myself, because whenever I do, it's immediately followed by, oh, yeah, no one cares. So this is a problem. Yeah. Okay. All right.
How do you feel about the baseball playoffs?
No one cares.
Did you watch the Lakers play last night?
No.
They're going to be good with LeBron now.
No one cares about your Lakers.
And
that actually
Lonzo.
felt good to
there you go.
For somebody to talk about their favorite team and for the other person to completely shoot it down.
We'll talk about your crappy Kansas City Chiefs soon enough.
Terrible.
They're bad.
They're terrible. All right. So let's look at the
That
offense.
was a much better start. Would you not agree?
No, I thought it was terrible.
Me the first time you were wrong.
Wow.
Let's go. Read your question.
I don't know if this is serious or not. Is this serious?
All right. So I think this is a good question, actually. There's been a lot of points.
There have been a lot of points this week. There are 4 games with over-unders above 50 so far. How many of those games will go over this week? And how many games next week will have similarly high totals?
I think the second part is even more interesting. The ones that are over 50 this week, okay, so Kansas City, New England. Is there any way it goes under? There's no chance it goes under. I mean, the line's at like 59.5, 60.
Yeah, I mean, that's
no chance. That one is going over for sure. I'm taking the over there.
Yeah.
Atlanta, Tampa Bay. Who says no? Who's playing defense in that game?
Yeah, weirdly, that game almost went under last week, even though it had the highest total. It needed a defensive touchdown to go over. So I don't know.
What about Pittsburgh, Cincy?
I think Pittsburgh, Cincinnati ends up being a little bit less so, just because if you look at Cincinnati, at least last week, right? They needed 2 defensive touchdowns just to get themselves to 27. Mm-hmm. I think Pittsburgh was playing that game with Atlanta last week that was a 57 over under, and without a defensive touchdown, it would not have gone over. So that one I'm a little bit less so. The one that's sneaky that our model likes that I had to kind of double take is Rams, Denver.
Oh, see, that's the one I like. Well, not as much as Kansas City, New England going over 50. That is. But that's the actual total that I like the most out of that group.
Yeah, I think the Rams defense, I mean, going into last week, they were, I think, low-key bad, and then they were exploited by the Seahawks and, like, running the football, but also throwing the ball. Marcus Peters has not played well.
Do you think that that's really the reason the Chiefs are good this year? They got rid of Marcus Peters.
They got rid of Marcus Peters. Culture, yeah.
That's what it is.
I don't know if I'd rather have, like, good guys than good players, but, maybe that has been the case, although their defensive backfield – I mean, now teams just throw on their linebackers.
It's true.
But yeah, so Denver, I think Denver will be able to run the ball. I think Keenum's the type of player that will give a touchdown, take a couple back, and I think the Rams will do whatever it takes to score enough points to keep up with them. So I do like the over in that game.
Are you worried that the Rams have 2 receivers that are concussed?
No, I mean Josh Reynolds played just as well as Kupp and Cooks when they went out, but looks like Cupps and Cooks also played.
As long as McVay doesn't have a concussion, yeah. I don't care. You put me out
and
there.
as long as
that's how I start my NFL career.
They kicked a field goal at the 1-yard line last week. They threw an interception at the 1-yard line and still scored 33 points against the Seahawks in Seattle. So I don't think them scoring points will be a problem.
The second part of your question was the most interesting. So there are 4 games with over 50. We've seen all this offense, a lot of offense, which is great. Shocking. I can't believe people like offense. It's weird. Let's go to next week, though. So Thursday night is Cardinals, Broncos. Mm-hmm. God help us all. Titans, Chargers. Texans, Jags, Panthers, Eagles, Jets, Vikings, Patriots, Bears.
Are there any new movies?
Bills, Colts. I've heard the one with Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper is great. I won't see it, but heard it's great. Bradley Cooper's phenomenal. He's great.
I think you're biased.
He's awesome. The Browns and the Bucks, the Lions and the Dolphins, the Saints and the Ravens, the Cowboys and the Redskins, the Rams and the Niners, which should have been on Sunday Night Football, but Jimmy had to die for our sins, and then Bengals Chiefs on Sunday night. Which of those games is over 50? Rams, Niners, Bengals, Chiefs?
I think Bengals Chiefs is one. I think Giants Falcons is another one. I think people don't really realize the Giants and the Falcons. I think the Giants defense is worse than people think. And they have some firepower. And then one that I wrote down that I think is going to be sneaky is Detroit Miami.
Ooh.
We've backed a couple Miami's overs over the last couple weeks. We haven't done well on them, but I do think that the Miami team against the Detroit defense that isn't very good. Detroit, even though Mason Crosby missed 17 kicks the other day, that game still went over. I think that one could have an over-under in the low 50s. But I do agree like that. This week has some good games. I mean, there's 4 good teams in the NFL. One's on a bye.
It has the best game of the season so far.
And 2 are playing each other. Next week is going to be worse.
I don't disagree. Next question. Which game this week will have the most innovative coaching, and which one has the potential to set football back a decade? That's harsh. I didn't write that because I love everyone. I'm never negative. So very negative on your part.
You didn't read the parenthetical that I had as an example for a game that set football back a decade.
Because I want to argue with that one a little bit.
Okay. All right.
The one that you think set football back a decade was Dallas Houston.
Yes.
Just because of the Jason Garrett call?
No, I think that the entire game was like a fundamental misunderstanding of the process. Look, Bill O'Brien
went for it on 4th and goal.
Exactly. But then his play call was bad. Right, and the outcome didn't work. And the next time they had 4th and goal at the 1,
right,
he kicked a field goal because he's like, oh, it must not have worked. You know, so somebody that does that to me is just a little bit like just throwing they read about it they read something in a diet book and they eat some kale for lunch and then they feel like crap come 3 o'clock and then they go home and on their way home they get a McDonald's, right? Like there's no process to that entire thing. Whereas
sounds like you're describing something you've once done. Do you want to talk?
Hey, listen, man.
I'm here to listen. So talk to me.
I don't think you've ever had McDonald's before. So
I have, but I haven't done it after eating a kale salad. I'll tell you that.
So my thing is
when's the last time you had McDonald's?
A few years ago, I would say. Yeah, I mean,
curious.
So here's the thing. I think that
still shows
that I have. Jesus. Are we gonna redo this podcast? Because I feel like I've just
we're not cutting any of this.
Okay. So for me, I think an analytical driven team is a team that does the process no matter what. And look at Philadelphia last week against Minnesota. They're going for it even when it doesn't work out, going for 2 when down 8, all that kind of stuff. You can tell that they're committed to the process and they continue to do that. Dallas Houston, aside from the fact that it was just a poorly played game with
it's a defensive battle. You don't like defensive battles?
No, there's a difference between a defensive battle and a battle between 2 teams that can't score.
Right.
Anyway, I
enjoyed watching Watson run.
What is the Dallas Houston game of this week?
Ooh.
As I drink some coffee because I know that makes you happy. I have some George points in the bank here.
It's gotta be Chargers Browns. Right?
It is. It has totally to be. Chargers Browns.
It has to be.
And which is
why we like the Browns.
Which is why because in a game where all bets are off, I feel like you kind of tilt towards the home team, tilt towards the dog here. And what I really like in that game is the under, even though the total isn't that big, it's 44.5. I just see it as a game where both teams are just going to do kind of like Cleveland did against the Baltimore Ravens last week, where you see some good things from Mayfield, but then they're tanked by bad play calling or they're tanked by bad special teams. And then the Chargers, if you want to talk about bad special teams, they have it in spades.
I don't actually, shockingly, but I do know that they have it, and it's going to be windy. So I agree with you. The coaching and the wind. Coaches can't coach in the wind. You can't ask them to coach in the wind.
Okay, what about the answer to the first part of the question? What's the most innovative coaching game?
I do like the one that you put down there because I do think highly of that coach, but it is undoubtedly going to be Kansas City, New England.
Yeah.
Right? So Andy Reid is the best offensive play caller and schemer in the NFL. With all due respect to Sean McVay, who I personally like more as a coach.
When you say it with all due respect, you do take away anything you need to say. You know, if you ever watched Talladega Nights. So,
okay. I like Sean McVay as a coach more overall. Andy Reid is a better, just in terms of pure play calling and play design, I think. I think it's very close. But Bill Belichick has got to do something in this game.
Yeah.
He's got to start making some aggressive calls. They weren't that aggressive at the beginning of the season. And if there is a time to do it, you can't be giving the ball back to Kansas City at any point without at least trying to score points. So I think it's that one.
The only reason that I look at that game and it doesn't immediately come to me that that's going to be the innovative coaching thing, the coaching game, is that I don't know if Kansas City's ever been known to adjust defensively well enough. I think Andy Reid is a brilliant offensive coach.
Who cares about defense?
Yeah, but to beat the Patriots in this game, the Chiefs are going to have to do something other than line Reggie Ragland and Anthony Hitchens at linebacker. When I look at the Philadelphia Eagles versus the New York Giants tonight, I see a game where obviously Doug Peterson is a very good coach. He does all the analytics, all that kind of stuff. When I see
he does it all himself.
Yeah, when I see Pat Shurmur, I do see a similarly good coach in that sense. And, you know, whether it's like throwing the ball with Odell, but like obviously he was endowed Eli Manning, and I don't know how much of the decision he was to draft Barkley, but he's kind of, in my opinion, making the most of that situation. Okay. And, you know, ultimately it's, you know,
I think we're both wrong. It's going to be Seattle, Oakland, and London. Innovation personified. They should just do an IBM Watson commercial with that game. Just talk about innovation. Make smarter decisions. Both these coaches are doing it. That'd be really funny if instead of Gruden and Carroll calling plays,
it was just Watson.
It's just IBM Watson. Smart idea. They should do that. Okay, last question here. These questions have gone on too long, but I think this is actually a good question. Will this be the week? So there are a lot of people that think coaches are going for it more on fourth down. They're not. It's basically the same. Mm-hmm. But it's getting a lot of publicity because coaches are going for it in some high leverage situations and have been successful. Sean McVay, Jason Garrett not going for it, those types of things. So is this the week that coaches go for it more on fourth downs overall, and that means earlier in games? What do you think?
No. I mean, I guess if they haven't already, they're not.
Really?
Because, I mean,
it's getting a lot of publicity. A lot of people are talking about it.
Yeah, but we misunderstand what football is, right? Football is a bunch of people.
That was a bold statement.
who no,
is it really dodgeball?
No, but
what
like
happened?
Football is people who see evidence oftentimes and go the opposite direction, right? And they're gonna, you know, when
okay.
they
So you're saying no.
I'm saying no. I think there's going to be kind of a backlash to what's happening because teams like the Eagles aren't doing as well, and like this is not football is a copycat
but the Eagles
league,
are getting praised for their decision still, despite losing.
Yeah, but football is a copycat league in off seasons. So if we haven't actually seen an appreciable increase in fourth downs, okay, I don't think we're gonna all of a sudden week six people are gonna be like, okay, we have to go for it marginally more.
All right, I think it's gonna happen this week. A lot of people are writing about it. So
coaches have never been swayed more by beat writers and analytics people writing about stuff.
I think part of the reason that coaches don't go for it on fourth down is because they're terrified of getting railed by the media when they go for it, and then they get it wrong, and now they're going to get railed by the media for not going for it. There's no way that's not at play, no chance. Also, their owners are going to hear those things, right?
Yeah.
The big stories, the big storylines, and be like, I want a coach like Sean McVay. Well, I'm either going to fire this guy and go get one, or this guy's going to turn out.
I hope you're right.
Do something.
Hope you're right.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. Questions from the dark web. We have got one this week, and we are, of course, brought to us by Sampo Ranta, a sparkling water for men. They're coming out with a new flavor every week. Week 6, they've got a very nice flavor here from south of the border. Tormented Tomatillo with a hint of self-loathing that peaks at 6 p.m. each Sunday when you realize that your crappy life was made worse by this week's games instead of much better, which you had hoped going into the week. And all of a sudden, your life comes crashing down. Tormented Tomatillo is the perfect accompaniment to that feeling. I would recommend not drinking too many because you do have to get up and live your crappy life on Monday, which is why that feels so bad. But in the moment, it's great for you, so pick one up at Bevmo, Amazon, wherever fine beverages are sold. The question from the dark web this week comes from @FlipMozzie. He says, is there a reason not to use play action on every pass snap? I imagine there has to be a concern with longer developing plays, so a team's capability to pass block should affect usage, right? What do you think?
I mean, I think this is a good hypothetical, right? The same reason people have been asking this question, like, why don't you run the ball, or why don't teams throw every single down? And it's like, well, we don't actually have data on teams that have thrown every single down. But I'm assuming there is some theoretical maximum after which, there's diminishing returns, but we simply haven't gotten there yet. And Flip, who is a little bit of afraid of this idea that guys will just tee off if you're running these long developing plays. Mm-hmm. My comeback to that, because I do think it's natural to ask this, my comeback to that is that defenders still bite on play action. That's why it works, right? So until defenders completely abandon all run defense, there's always going to be a benefit to play action passing.
Right. I've said this 20 times, a couple times on this podcast, which is if I have a team in practice, we are practicing not biting on play action. We are literally selling out to stop the pass every time. I do not care. I'm making defenders sit in a room and watch fake handoffs so that they can not react to them.
I mean, it's like that,
Okay. Yeah. Sorry. What were you going to say?
It's like that scene in Moneyball where like he talks the guys into taking more pitches.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. But how often would you run play action? So let's make this a slightly more simplified version of this. Well, I guess you can't. I was going to say every pass snap. He already said every pass snap. How would you use play action?
Well, I probably would use it on every down where running the football is actually in consideration. So I probably wouldn't waste my time on it on third down and long-ish, so 4 or more. But I would probably run it at least some sort of play fake. And I think in the future what we're going to see is more of the RPOs actually being more than a 10% of the plays type of thing. And in that case, like regular play action might be just part of this like spectrum. And so I would probably go across that spectrum a decent amount of time and run it fairly often on every play where a run play is in consideration.
Yep. I would do it every single time that you could feasibly run a run play. That is the right answer. Good job. You got one right. All right, let's roll into some picks. Before I do, let me tell you a little bit more about the best place to make use of the picks that you're about to get. That's mybookie.ag. It is really the only place that I ever look to make an investment. Head to mybookie.ag. You can place bets on everything from college to pro, from win totals to season-long Super Bowl odds to fantasy player over-unders, whatever you want, they've got it. They have in-game live betting as well, which is something that you definitely want to have. So use promo code PFF to get a $1 match on your first deposit at mybookie.ag. It's pretty simple. You take PFF, go to mybookie.ag, you win. You play, you win, you get paid. That's how it works. You have to play
that
first.
Order.
Yeah. All right. Okay, let's roll through some picks here. Let's start with the Thursday night game. Philadelphia rolling into New Jersey.
Yeah, and
this line has moved a little bit.
This appears to be a game where people are on the Giants. The Giants opened, I believe, at minus or +3, but juiced. If you wanted to bet the Giants, it's continued to go down.
Yeah, we all know Barry Bonds did steroids.
We know the consensus line is about 1 now, so basically it's a pick 'em. And I think we like Philadelphia both on the money line, but also against the spread. Because Philadelphia, while struggling, I think, on the scoreboard, sort of continues to play, I think, better than people think, right? Their game against Minnesota is far more of a better game for the Eagles than I think that their fans or Vikings fans would come out of it thinking.
I don't disagree with you. I'm very nervous about the fact that the Eagles can't cover anymore. that was the big thing that the Eagles did last season that got them to the Super Bowls. All of a sudden, they combined a pass rush with the ability to cover. Now they can't cover me. So if there was a game for Odell Beckham, this might be it, right?
Mm-hmm.
At home, got the benefit of the home crowd to slow down the pass rush a little bit because you get that little bit of O-line bump, which they desperately need. All of a sudden, no more Eric Flowers. I don't know.
It's an addition by subtraction there. But
the tough thing is that this is a game where the better team, the drastically better team, has to win the game, and it's basically a pick 'em. So
yeah, it's strange because the NFC East is a division where I think that the no team is above 500. So whoever loses this game, I think if the Giants lose, they're firmly out of it. But I think if the Eagles lose, they're still kind of in it in a weird way. But it's a far better outlook for them if they win this game. Obviously, they have the advantage at the quarterback position, and now that it's just a pick 'em, you're sort of basically just picking the better quarterback in this case. And Wentz, even though I think that offense has not been as smooth as it was a season ago, a lot of that can be attributed to the things that have regressed for him, which is third down conversions, play under pressure, even though he's still okay under pressure. I think that the quarterback comparison here is firmly on the Eagles side, in which case I would still side with the Eagles.
Thing is, Wentz last year didn't really have any bad luck. This year he's got guys dropping some balls. There's just some ancillary things that have not gone the Eagles' way, which is what you expect. But I will side with the math. I think the Eagles are the right pick here. Right, next game you want to talk about?
Let's go to Cincinnati. So down the street here, let's go Cincinnati.
Take you a while to get there, though, with all that traffic.
So Cincinnati is a 2-point favorite.
You have to leave now to get to the game on Sunday.
You can take a bird or something. So Cincinnati is a 2-point favorite at home against the Steelers. The Bengals coming off of a game where we were on the Dolphins +6. Dolphins are up 17-0.
Why do you have to reopen wounds?
A 3-touchdown flurry, including 2 defensive linemen scoring touchdowns, and the Bengals ended up not only winning that but covering.
I guess John Lennon was right.
I mean, you have to air the grievances. What I think's interesting about this one, so our number is probably more like 1. I'd probably even think about picking Pittsburgh straight up here. But the thing is, I think Pittsburgh's actually healthier. None of their key players are injured. Obviously, Bell's out, but that's not a huge deal. Whereas with the
Ryan Shazier.
Okay, we're not going to be.
They desperately miss him.
Packers fans were complaining about losing Nick Collins for like 5 years after he retired. So, William Jackson, questionable with a knee injury, John Ross, Billy Price, Carl Lawson. Like, there's just a lot of injuries on the Bengals side, and I think that that's going to be something where they're at 4-1. They can think about there's a little bit of relaxation they can have here. Whereas I think if the Steelers lose, they're firmly out of the race for the AFC North here.
This is another situation where the road team with the better quarterback needs to win a lot more.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing. I don't hate that narrative. I also love betting against Andy Dalton, even though it didn't work last week. I think people will be skeptical of the Bengals based on their record, or not skeptical of the Bengals based on their strong record. They beat the Dolphins at home last week. And if you watch that game, you notice that 2 defensive linemen scored touchdowns.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing that repeating. And I don't know. It's tough. I don't like taking a road favorite ever, but a short road dog, but I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if you're picking the Steelers against the spread here, you basically need them to win because the number's so short. So that's a tough hurdle there. But I also, if you look at our money line numbers, it's like -106, +106. So basically a pick 'em here. I think the Steelers are the better team with a better quarterback, probably the better coach, although Tomlin's got a lot of flack recently. So yeah, I don't mind this at all.
No effort. Yeah.
Okay. What's your next one?
I want to talk about Buffalo and Houston.
Oh, on purpose.
Yes, because I think this line is ridiculous, and I want you to try and convince me why it isn't. It's 10.5, depending on where you're looking. The Texans are favored. I know that the Bills suck. You don't have to convince me ever that the Bills are bad, but are the Texans that good? Are they beating anybody by 11 points?
I mean, No, the problem is Houston. I think of Deshaun Watson. Every time he has the ball, it scares me. And we've been against the Texans every single week this year, and it still scares me every time he has the ball. There's nothing the Bills do.
Why? Because he might get knocked out.
Well, sure, but there's nothing that the Bills do that makes me confident at all, other than rushing the passer. And last week against Dallas and against Indy the week before, the Texans have given up about as much pressure as anybody, and Watson still finds a way. So I don't know. The number's big. I like the fact the number's big if I'm thinking about backing Buffalo here.
Yeah, that's the idea. It's just way too big.
The over-under's 41, so one of those two things has to give, and I think it'd probably be more of a thing where the Texans win, 13-6 or something, and you end up getting the cover here. There
was a really decent question about whether Deshaun Watson was be able to continue playing in that game against Dallas. Like the dude got cracked multiple times, and that was a huge game for the Texans, right? A massive win. It's the Texas rivalry. That place was juiced up, and getting over that and now facing a really crappy Bills team has to feel like a relief.
Yeah.
Right? The offensive line is still bad. Deshaun Watson is banged up. Look, Josh Allen has been bad with a capital B, but it doesn't take a ton to just not lose to a not very good team.
So my issue is I have a hard time with the premise, and this has happened to me like historically, like if you look at like the 2011 Cardinals with like John Skelton or Kevin Cobb or what, like I hate the narrative.
That's so brutal.
He's
not that bad.
No, he's that bad. And I hate the narrative of this team has been able to survive a month covering spreads despite having the worst quarterback situation in the world. Why can't they do it here? I hate that narrative.
Yeah.
And I think that to me is like the only thing that's keeping me away from this is the idea that the best narrative that people have is that, Allen's been pretty brutal and the Bills have still been okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the same thing you're going to say about Beathard in Monday Night Football, too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm more worried about that because Green Bay is, I think, a much better team than the Texans are. So I'm taking the points. I'm taking Buffalo and the points. All right, next game. Let's pick three more to talk about.
Let's go to Miami, and let's look at the Dolphins.
Sure.
3.5-point dogs.
Are we ever going to get there based on the traffic?
At home. I can't believe you're shaming me. You're shaming me for living in the burbs with a car.
Yeah,
you are. So like 3.5-point dogs at home to a Chicago team coming off of a bye. I think this is too many points for the Bears to be laying here. What do you think?
I agree, but I'm going to give you the same narrative that you just gave me, which is Ryan Tannehill. Like, are you really?
I mean, Ryan Tannehill this season has a 102.5 passer rating when clean.
Okay, great.
Their offensive line is banged up.
His turnover-worthy play percentage is 7, basically. 7%.
Yeah, I mean, Trubisky hasn't been that. But Trubisky has more negatively graded dropbacks than positively graded ones. I think the quarterback.
Who's the better quarterback? Does it like they're the same, right?
I think Tannehill's marginally better than Trubisky.
Okay, marginally better than Trubisky. But isn't Tannehill just going to get eaten alive? He's terrible under pressure. He's just going to get eaten alive.
Yeah, but what's the difficult part of the Bears defense? The difficult part of the Bears defense is that Prince Amukamara is their second corner. Bryce Callahan / Crayvon LeBlanc. Their inside corners aren't elite. The Dolphins have good players in Jakeem Grant, who's questionable but probably will play. They have Albert Wilson. They have Danny Amendola, your guy. They have
a lot of credit to Danny.
They have Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore, who can both catch the ball in the backfield. I think offensively they'll be able to move it just enough. And then you look at the Bears' offense. If you take away the Bears' offense game against Tampa, which I know you can't, right? But if let's say you backtrack this game 2 weeks ago, what's the spread of the game? The Dolphins are 3-point favorites, right? So has this changed 6 points?
I hate that argument so much.
Why? Because we know that
that line was overreacting to what the Dolphins had done previously, which no one should have done because the Dolphins aren't that good of a team.
Yeah, but I would also say that this line is overreacting to what the Bears did to Tampa Bay and what the Dolphins did in a quarter's worth of work against the Cincinnati Bengals. Even if you backtrack this 1 week, it's probably still Dolphins -1.
Yeah, I think this line is more about the Dolphins having gotten destroyed and looked offensively inept for the vast majority of 2 games.
I mean, okay, but
which is half their season.
But okay, let's come back and ask the question again. Do the Bears blow out the Dolphins in Miami?
Sure.
Okay, so it's hot. Bears have to wear their black uniforms. Dolphins wear their white uniforms.
1950.
It is 1950.
They're made of wool.
I mean, because the Bears' defense is very good, but I would say that the Dolphins' offense has taken advantage of some teams, especially at home this year. And okay. I don't mind. I don't mind the Dolphins plus 3.5.
I've been playing a lot of devil's advocate here. I really do like the
you are the Devils campaign manager.
That's. I'm not going to make a joke. I do like the Dolphins here.
You haven't been indicted yet. Sorry.
Yeah, right. I like the Dolphins. I do not think the lobster Trubisky is that great. This is one of those games where it's very scary, but this should probably be a pick 'em.
I'm with you there.
Right? All right. 2 games left. Let's go quickly over Rams-Broncos. I want to talk more about Sunday Night Football. Really quickly, Rams-Broncos. So the Rams are 7-point favorites on the road again. If you were given 2 options, you can either take the home dog getting 7 in Seattle or the home dog in Denver getting 7. Which one of those games would you rather have? Seahawks getting 7 or Broncos getting 7 at home? Not knowing what happened last week.
Yeah, I mean, Seattle's got the better quarterback. So in that sense, I'd probably go Seattle. If the quarterbacks were slightly more equal, I would take the Broncos because of the altitude and the differential at home and away and everything.
Because I actually think it's no question that you take Seattle.
Okay.
I don't even think it's close. So I do, in hindsight, not in hindsight, but in this week now, I feel less good about taking the Broncos getting 7 because I know it's a worse bet, or I believe it's a worse bet than the bet was last week. And I think that the reason this is 7 and not maybe 8.5 is because of what happened last week, right? Which I don't think really matters that much because everyone thought the Seahawks were terrible. They really still have a good quarterback. It was a revenge game for them for whatever the heck that means. And the Broncos have Case Keenum, who at home struggled against the Chiefs.
Yeah, I mean,
now the Rams defense is bad at this moment.
But then, so you talk about that Chiefs game. Denver opened that game as 5-point dogs. By the time it ended, they were 3.5-point dogs. Right. Game lands 4. How much better or worse are the Rams and the Chiefs? I would say that they're probably a point or 2 better, right? So I think this number makes sense. I'm glad that we're on the Denver side and not the Rams side from a sweating it out perspective. Yeah. But I don't know. I don't feel super confident about Denver here. The only thing that I like is the fact Denver has 3 wide receivers that aren't embarrassing, and the Rams have 2 cornerbacks on the outside that have thus far been pretty poor.
Pretty embarrassing. Marcus Peters has been bad, man. He basically single-handedly covered that for the Seahawks last week. Okay, Sunday Night Football, best game of the season so far, Chiefs and Patriots.
God, throwing so much shade at Bills Vikings, but okay.
I know. I'm pretty excited about this game. I've never been to Gillette Stadium. I haven't really been to Boston ever. I'm stoked about that, and I'm excited to be a part of this game, which I think is going to be great. Other than that, my life is really hard, though. It's going to be an arduous journey there. I'm going to probably have to travel through the middle of the night by foot on the way home, deal with the Cincinnati traffic getting in. It's going to be raining on Monday, so don't worry, my life still sucks. I want to make sure that you feel bad for me. But this game, Patriots opened, I believe, 3-point favorites, so 3.5-point favorites right now. The math says New England. I think the gut says New England. But how terrified are you if you have New England, the Chiefs start with the ball, and it's just march down the field?
You're in the meat grinder the whole time.
I mean, they score first. It looks like
So Kansas City has held the other team, I believe. The Kansas City has won the toss every single game this year. And aside from allowing Denver, I believe, to score a field goal, they've had a 3-and-out in every single.
It's basically been receiving the ball for them and then getting it at halftime.
And so
we know that the Patriots are not going to allow that to happen.
Yeah. So
they'll somehow win the toss here.
Well, so my thing is I don't see how the Chiefs stop the Patriots other than fluky plays that happened last Thursday, right? So they have 10 days off plus a full Sunday almost off. And the Patriots got like every stupid thing out of their system against the Colts. Gronk, clown showing a ball inside the 5-yard line.
Right.
Hogan dropping a ball that became an interception. Edelman dropping a deep pass on that second drive of the game. We were on the over in that game, and it ended up not being a sweat at the end, but it was a sweat almost the first, whole first half of the game because of a comedy of errors on New England's offensive side. They probably don't have those errors this week. They're probably tighten those up, knowing that they're playing the Chiefs and not the Colts. So I see New England putting up their end of the bargain. The issue again is whether they can stop the Chiefs. But again, we've only seen the good of Pat Mahomes. We have not seen the bad.
I think as tough as this is, if you break it down to sort of the position by position matchups, I do think the Patriots are the right side because almost all of the matchups go in their favor. The fact that the Chiefs are an amazing team is tough to swallow. But if you look at the things where the Chiefs are really deficient, their linebackers cannot cover. And no quarterback has been better attacking linebackers over the past 4 seasons. If you look at pass rating, you look at PFF grade, you look at touchdowns, whatever it is, Tom Brady is number one, right? He just torches opponents' linebackers. James White has been very good against linebackers so far this season. And then you keep going down the line. You say, okay, who's covering Gronk? Well, it's not Eric Berry. Okay, so
Marcus Kemp.
Good luck there. The Patriots have been, very good over the past 2 games, really without a deep passing game. That's been the one big area where Brady has been more deficient this season because they don't have Brandon Cooks. But all of a sudden, they've got Josh Gordon starting to take a bigger role. And then Edelman being back is that sort of culminating piece, right? They have sort of every piece that you would want on an offense now against a defense that, look, both these defenses are bad. There's no way you're taking the Chiefs defense over the Patriots defense ever.
Yeah, and I actually don't think the Patriots defense is as bad as advertised, right? I think like a season ago, again, we talked about this last week, a season ago, the narrative going into week 5, right, Thursday Night Football was, oh, look, this defense is historically bad, blah, blah, blah. And then, of course, I think they held Tampa to 14 points, which their offense is actually good. And then the next, 12 of the next 13 weeks, they allowed teams 17 or fewer points, right? Yeah. So, we're not even – and we sort of joke about, oh, the season hasn't really started yet. But in many ways, a lot of the things that have transpired this year sort of go back to your prior. New England's smart. They have smart coaching. Our first guess about Kansas City was that their defense was going to be bad, right?
Yeah.
And even though through 5 weeks they've been good enough to win football games, there still are a lot of fundamental things wrong with that defense. Buy into those things going into this week, and I think New England's probably the pick here at -3, -3.5.
Let me ask you this, though. The total is 59.5, 60. Would you rather have the over or New England?
59.5 is really tall, but
you're tall.
I'm okay.
So you're saying that the total here is like Steve Palazzolo.
I mean, the problem. So when I think, because I do a lot of the college stuff, and my thing with 56 is a common college over under, and you think about landmarks for a 56, you think each team has to score a touchdown each quarter, and so if I'm thinking about the Patriots here, I'm thinking they could say, okay, Pat Mahomes is too dang good. We're gonna have to take a drive that takes 8 minutes of a quarter, and if that drive ends in a field goal, as I think it did the other day, right? There was one drive that that almost kills your chance at an over 60 if a few turnovers and a few things don't happen, right? So I'd probably rather take New England against the spread here than take the over.
Interesting. I do think the Patriots probably sell out to stop the pass. One of the interesting things about Mahomes so far this year is that he's been absolutely money on quick throws. They've just been scheming the crap out of teams, and he's just had open guys in less than 2.5 seconds. He's just gunning it. We see all the highlight plays where he scrambles, but it's basically he either gets it out quickly or he just prolongs the play forever, takes a hit, and calmly delivers a strike.
Yeah.
Now, that's a really unstable thing. I could see that, the Patriots saying, look, we're just going to sell out to make you just have those plays over and over again. Not saying they can do that, but that's got to be one of the things that they're trying to do. And they're probably just going to say, hey, let Kareem Hunt run. We don't have Cassius Marsh in this game. That's really the big difference.
And I think Andy Reid is good enough to zig when Belichick zags and have a good enough offensive game here.
I would just pay to see the two of them zigging and zagging.
Yeah, for sure. But I
love Andy Reid.
But I think the
Andy Reid's brother is that big guy in Cleveland who says hut and his stomach moves. They're definitely related, right?
Ample gut. Ample.
I love Andy Reid. The great thing about this game is that I'm really excited to see the players play, but I'm very excited to see what the coaches come up with because there's so many different ways they can go. How much does each team want to expose, knowing that this could be a matchup down the road, but you obviously want to have it at home, right? So, man, I just think there's I
don't know. It's going to be a compelling game.
Compelling and rich.
And I'm glad that we have a pick on it, but it's one of those games where I would watch it whether or not we had a pick on it. Unlike last Sunday night, with the only reason we watched it, I would watch it was because we had Dallas plus 3.5.
That's the only reason you watched it. You just wouldn't have watched the game.
Last Sunday night's game, I would have went to bed.
Really?
Yeah.
That's hurtful.
Truthful. Hurtful.
You helped me during that game.
Oh, that's true.
We work during that game.
I'm sorry. I was speaking mostly in hyperbole.
You find out who your true friends are, I guess. I would just go to sleep. All right. Noted. God, amazing. One last game that I think is that we talked. Did we talk about Cleveland? Yeah, we did, actually.
We talked about that game being a possible one to set football back. We have not talked about our
That's
pick.
right. That's when we mentioned it. So I would just say that we might write this up. You can check it out on profootballfocus.com. But the under in that game is supposed to be kind of windy. Under's low, but it's supposed to be kind of windy. I don't know. They don't like to score touchdowns in Cleveland, so who knows?
It's overrated.
Okay. That's it?
Yeah, I think that's it.
Go Patriots, I guess. Man, that's it. I'm just excited to watch the game. I'm going to be happy regardless. You can hold me to that. So Sunday night, you should listen in. Of course, every Monday morning we'll have a podcast up for you because we burn the midnight oil into Sunday night, Monday morning.
Sometimes we steal some hours of sleep during bad games.
Rage builds. So you should check that out because we look ahead. We always move on to the next week. We're not here to talk about the past. So you have your tormented tomatillo Sunday night, and then you refresh. You reset Monday morning. We'll talk about the games to look forward to that coming week. And that'll be up early in the morning on Monday thanks to Matt's hard work and our suffering that we endure. Anyways, good luck this week. See you guys next week, I guess. Hopefully, God willing.